Hello again. This week the students replaced a wheel bearing on a Jeep. I'm going to educate you a little bit on swollen lug nuts. Alejandro is making some headway on that Nova hood, and our Yukon is just about finished, but we had a couple of minor setbacks that we're going to share with you in this episode. Thanks for tuning in. The students are wrapping up some of the Yukon by putting on the tensioner and the idler, and then they're going to install the belt.
Over there. Yeah, this one goes on the right.
Oh, you want to put it down? One of the issues we were having with the Yukon was getting the transmission dipstick tube back in. And these Auto2 students did a really good job of getting it back in place and securing it with one of the bell housing bolts.
Is it going straight in?
Yes. Go push it.
A bigger issue we were having was that the replacement engine had the dipstick tube for the oil broke off in the block. So here we're removing the dipstick tube from the original engine, but we're going to have a bigger problem trying to figure out how to get the broken piece out of the Yukon block, and you'll see that next week. Alejandro's back to work fixing that last dent on that 69 Nova hood. He's applying some plastic to it, and then he'll get that sanded down, and it should be ready to prime next week. Most of the prep work for the Jeep is already done. The rotor's out of the way, the caliper's out of the way, so here he's removing the hub bearing bolts from the back side to get ready to remove it.
Sometimes my mind, it hurts me. There's cracks in, it hurts me. My brain tries to do it. The things that I like doing, I've had it out to my chest.
With the hub in place and the bolts started, they're just seating them with our 3/8 impact, and then they'll come back and tighten them with a wrench. Now the axle nut gets torqued to 229 pound-feet. With the caliper in place, the students get busy putting on our new ABS sensor, and then we'll reinstall the wheel. Some of you may have heard the term swollen lug nut before. What that means is you have generally an open lug nut where the manufacturers have pressed on a thin decorative shell. The problem with that is that condensation gets between the lug nut and the shell and creates rust and corrosion, and there's nowhere for it to go, so it begins swelling the lug nut outward. Now the problem with that is, you can kind of see with this one, it's really bad, is that the socket barely fits on. We almost didn't get this one off. And the ones that it does go on over a little bit, it's so tight that it's hard to get the lug nut back out. So what we've done with our Jeep is we replaced the 5 lug nuts on the side where we replaced that bearing. And the difference with this one is that it's a one-piece design. It's still polished looking for the decorative portion of the wheel, but there's no shell, so there's no opportunity for corrosion to get there and cause the lug nut to swell. So this is definitely a better way to go for lug nut replacement. My advice is that you get, if you have that style of lug nut, that you should replace them all. The manufacturers are definitely aware of this problem, and they probably have the regular lug nuts one-piece design that they can put on. If not, Dorman and other companies like that do sell them. And again, I would recommend you do that, because the last thing you want is to be stuck on the side of the road with a flat tire trying to change it, and the lug wrench does not fit the lug nuts themselves. So anyway, that's why we replaced those on the Jeep, and again, definitely a good idea to do that for yourself. This picture was uncovered recently, and it is of my great-grandfather sitting on what we believe to be is a 28 Harley. We'll investigate that to figure that out. But what it's done is inspired me to get back on that 36 Harley that I shared with you last year that was discovered in a barn that had been sitting for many, many years that belonged actually to my uncle. And I own it now, and I'm going to get back to work on that. It's a great story of how I acquired it, and I'll share that in more detail in one of the episodes this summer. Next time on Bulldog Builds, we'll see if Alejandro has that hood ready to put into primer. And hopefully we'll have that Yukon back together and fired off. We're also going to be saying goodbye to our seniors. See you next week.